if a person does not have the shofar, he prays, and then when he gets the shofar, he'll blow the shofar later. We're on 34b, 34b2. So let's see the Gemara. 34b2. Maybe a coffee. They may want to get a little milk. He likes a little milk. Yeah, the left side, first column. You see the middle of the page, about two paragraphs from the bottom. Misha berach v'achakach nismana lo shofar. What happened was that a person prayed. He did, let's say, the Rosh Hashana Musaf, and after he did the Rosh Hashana Musaf, he got his shofar. So now we know the special laws that when you pray the Musaf is we connect the Musaf to the shofar, right? We have the brachot of Malchiot, Zechronot, Shofrot, and some communities actually they blow during the silent Amidah. More Sephardic communities, the Nusach Svard, they actually stop at a certain point while they're doing the lachash, the quiet esrei, and they blow. So here the guy there was no shofar, there's no shofar, and the question is now that he got the shofar, and if you got the shofar, let's say we could even be talking about a community. See, the question is, what is the case of the Mishnah? The Mishnah talking about a shul, the Mishnah talking about an individual, but the Mishnah states, we'll see more about that, if there was this recitation of the Musaf, you daven Musaf without the shofar, and now you get the shofar, you don't have to redo the Amidah. You don't have to redo the Amidah. You just blow the shofar, the sounds that you need to blow, fill your obligation, and that's of the shofar, and that's what the Mishnah states. So the Gemara now makes the following inference from the language of the Mishnah. But the Mishnah stated, if you went ahead and you prayed, and then you got the shofar, then you blew the shofar after praying. But what about if you had the shofar the whole time? You would obviously connect the shofar to the prayer. So the Gemara says, so we see time the lo have a shofar meikara. You didn't have the shofar to begin with. Adam, if you want to send to the group that we're on, thank you. Because you didn't have the shofar in the beginning. But if you had a shofar in the beginning, ki shamalahu, when would you blow the shofar? Aseda brachot shamalahu. You would say it according to the order of the brachot or shofrot, zechronot, machliot. You would not do it after the recitation of the Amidah. You would do it simultaneously with the Amidah. So that's what the Gemara wants to infer, a very nice halacha. But the obvious question on this inference of the Gemara, we have an open Mishnah that we learned on earlier on Lamed Bet Amud Aleph that states that exact rule, that you would state those shofrot, zechronot, malchiot, whatever you would say in the Amidah, and connected to that, you would have to go ahead, at least the halachic opinion in the Mishnah over there goes, that you would have to go ahead and connect the shofar to the Amidah, to the Musaf. The shofar is not independent of our prayers. It's directly connected. So the Gemara, the commentator says, so what is the Gemara's, you don't need to infer something when you have it black and white. When you want to learn a law, right, David, if you have a law that you don't know, so you want to say, I see from this statement, I could infer, I could pick up something. But if that's what you want to pick it up, you want to figure it, you see it, infer it. It's not. But if you have another statement of a Mishnah which is clear that states that openly, you don't need to infer that. You don't need to infer that from a latter statement when it was clear earlier. So that's the question that the commentators ask on this Gemara. So one of the main answers they give is the Mishnah earlier. You could say the Gemara was talking about a minyan. Have a minyan. You have a chazan. So there, at that point, you have the responsibility to go ahead and say when you connect the shofar to the amidah, whether to the chazoret hashatz, repetition of the hashatz, or in the actual quiet amidah. But here we're saying, even if you're an individual, in the language of the Mishnah here, it sounds like an individual. Misha Beirach, someone who said the blessings, someone who prayed, and then afterwards he got a shofar. So the Gemara was thinking, right? I got a shofar, got a shofar. So the Gemara was thinking this is talking about an individual. It's not talking about the balkore for the community. It's talking about, or the chazan for the community. It's talking about an individual who prayed, and then after he prayed, he got a shofar. So then he blows the shofar after he prays. But what happened if he had a shofar, an individual, not a minyan, right, David? One guy had no shofar, but had a shofar the whole time. He would have to blow the shofar as part of his amidah. Okay, so then the question would be whether he would have to repeat or not repeat, but at least lechatchila, he has to go ahead and blow the shofar as an individual. Either he will have someone blowing for him, he'll stop at a certain spot and let the other guy blow, or he himself will be on top of his game. He'll say the blessing of Malchiot or whatever, and then he'll blow the shofar and so on. So that is novel. That is something that we never had on record before. That we have that an individual has a responsibility. Now we know that's not the halakha. Today, if somebody, for some reason, is not able to come to the synagogue on Rosh Hashana, and let's say he's very capable of blowing the shofar, we don't say that, you know what, he has to pray, and in the middle of his amidah, he has to go ahead and stop and blow the shofar. But that's the issue here in the Gemara. Would an individual have to do that? So time and the Gemara actually illustrates there was a story like that. Rav Papa Bashmuel, come let's whatever his situation was, the commentator is, why is he davening by himself? Hey, maybe he was sick, whatever the case was. He got up to daven on Rosh Hashana by himself. He was praying on Rosh Hashana by himself. And also, by the way, there are times, a lot of times, leading rabbis would go and travel to save lives. People would be kidnapped, and pidyon shliim was a very big thing, a very common issue. I mean, it's not as common today that people are being kidnapped. I mean, we do have in the news these type of things, but it's not a everyday occurrence or something that's so common. But in the old days, the pirates and all that was much more common. And rabbis, if they might have, if they had to travel to save the guy's life and intercede and because they were the ones who most probably would raise the money and be responsible with the money. So if they have to pray alone on Rosh Hashanah, they're on the way to saving somebody's life. It does, that obviously takes precedent.
Orlando, where to pray with the prisoners. I don't think they had a minyan, but they went
to give strength to the right. Hello, morning, Asaf. Okay, so here was a question of saving a life. They're in the prison it's a matter of giving chizuk and strength to the prisoner. But in those days, it was a question of saving a life. So it could have been traveling towards that, and then he didn't have the minyan. We are on 34b2, right side. So the Gemara says, he said to his gabai, his shamash, the one who was his attendant, when I give you a sign, I'll give you a sign. Maybe I'll make a sound, whatever the sound I will make, maybe, or whatever it'll be. When I'll give you a sign that I finished the bracha. Some have the text that when he would, I think they say when he would snort. There was a different text in the Gemara. When I give you a sign, that will be a sign takali. That's a sign that I finished that blessing of malchiot or shofrot, and that's a time for you to blow the shofar. Amalei Rava Rav Papa. So Rava said to Rav Papa, because Rav Papa by Shmuel is the one who said, he asked his attendant that to please make sure you blow the shofar for me at the time when I give you the sign. When I'm in the middle of the Amidah. So Amalei Rava says, Lo Amu Ela B'Chaveir. This responsibility to blow the shofar in connection with the Musaf, directly connected to the brachot at three different places. You're gonna blow the shofar during connecting to the Shemona Esrei, to the Amidah. It's only b'chaveir. It's only when there is a minyan. But if there's no minyan, you will if there's no minyan, if you're davening by yourself, then what you do is you first conclude the musaf, and after you daven musaf, then you go ahead and you will blow the shofar. That is how Rashi learns the Gemara, and others say no. Others say if you don't have a minyan, you first blow the shofar. That's a reason might give a special mitzvah min Torah of blowing the shofar. Blow the shofar first, and then daven musaf. If you recall, we had the Gemara earlier that asked the question, why don't we have the shofar at Shachrit? Why don't we institute the Musaf Amidah, which deals with shofar, which talks about Malchiot, Shofrot, Zechronot, move that to Shachrit. Because you usually do a mitzvah, you do a mitzvah right away. The Gemara said because there was a time that they made a decree, the enemies made a decree that we couldn't blow the shofar. They thought, and Tosfos elaborates on it, they thought we were going, it's a call for war. And there was a time period, as Tosfos calls the figure Yerushalmi, that actually the non-Jewish community actually killed Jewish people when the Jews blew the shofar early in the morning, at Shachrit, because they thought that the Jews are coming to rebel. That wasn't obviously our intention. Therefore, they moved it to Musaf. That's why we blow at Musaf, because you don't rebel late in the day. Usually, the rebellion is bright and early in the morning. Yes, Nathan.
When Abraham performed the circumcision on Yitzchak, I know that he got ready early in the morning, but didn't they do it at the height of the day?
Yes. The actual right. But Avram,
for reasons of publicity, could be done in the middle of the day and not at 5 in the morning. So one could theoretically think more people, more women, more men will come to shul by midday than that shacharit.
right. So it's pointed out that if you have that, we still say the Ravad Yosef writes that the Yalkut Yosef, he deals with that. Some people want to make Brit, the circumcision, later on because there'll be more people. He's not a fan of that. Even though on the one hand you'll be more people, but at the end of the day, it's more important to be zariz, to do it earlier, do it with the alacrity earlier, morning assignment in the day. The general reason why so if the Brit is later in the day, generally most of the time it's because the baby was yellow or something. They need extra time under the light. So that's what the Gemara says. Now it's interesting, the language of the Gemara. Just what they sort of what's the language of the Chaveir? Okay, well maybe tomorrow we'll talk more about the language of Chaveir. But we're talking about, so now the Gemara says like this. We also learned in the Braita, just to bring Simon up to date. When do you have responsibility to connect the shofar to the musaf? It's only the minyan. Now, is there a problem? So in the commentators talk about, not only you don't need to do it, you don't need to when you're individual to stop your Shemona Esrei and pause for the blowing during your Amidah, which, by the way, this Gemara might sound like the Sephardi custom, that was the common thing. At least we see that sounds like to stop in the middle. And the Gemara just says you only do that when you have a minyan. So it sounds like when you have a minyan, that's what's done. But the Gemara says, but what about when you don't have a minyan and we say you don't need to do it? Not only you don't need to do it, then it's better not to do it.
We don't have it.
If you don't have a minyan, because then that people, some commentators say that then it's like interrupting, meaning the allowance. See, it's not the allowance to stop your amidah, and in the middle of your middle of your lachash, your middle of your private amidah, and you're stopping it to hear the shofar. That could be considered interruption, because if they did not, the only if when the rabbi said that you need to do it when you have a minyan, so that then it's not considered interruption. But when the rabbis did not tell you to do it, and you don't need to do it, so then it's going to be considered an interruption. You know, when you're in the middle of your Amidah and the Chazan is saying Kiddusha, right? They're up to Kiddusha. You don't answer to the Kiddusha. You listen, stop and you listen. There's certain things you just stop and listen. But there again, you're part of a minyan, so you stop. But here, therefore that will be an issue why you will not do, even if you're capable of blowing the shofar, you have someone who's capable of blowing the shofar for you, and you're an individual, you will not stop in the middle of your amidah to hear the shofar. That's the Tanya Nami. We looked at the Brighton like this as well. The Brighton says, Tanya Nami Hachi, Kishu Shomam, when you blow the shofar, Shomam ala seder, you do it on the proper order, Tkiya, Tzuat, Tkiya, right? There's a certain order of the blast. You don't just start with a crying sound. It's not that, all sounds, anyway, as long as you do the sound, it doesn't make a difference how you do it, the order. No, there's an order, it has to be straight, Tkiya, then a breaking sound, and then a Tkiya. And I'll say the brachot, and also you have to blow the Tkiya, Tkiya on the order of the brachot, according to the brachot of the Musaf, of the Musaf. Medvarim amurim. When is that stated? B'chaveir, when you're in the group of the city, when you have a minyan of shelo b'chaveir, but when you do not have a minyan, so then we say shelo b'chaveir, then shomam ala seder. Then you do have to blow tkiya, tshua, tkiya. If the order still counts. However, shelo al seder brachot. But you do not do it on the order of the brachot. Rather, you do it either according to Rashi, you would do it blow after the musaf, and according to others, you would actually blow it before the musaf. Now, then the Gemara says the following: V'yochid shelo toka, an individual that did not blow the shofar, chaveiro tokeelo. If you didn't blow the shofar, your friend could go ahead and blow the shofar. Now, that seems to be obvious, right? It's obvious that someone else could be most to you with the shofar, but I think the Gemara is saying this for the contrast. Look at the words, and also the chiddush could also be that even if your friend already heard the shofar, or I already blew the shofar, then I'm going to someone else's house to blow the shofar, even though I already filmed the mitzvah, I could do it again. Because there's a rule, all Jews are responsible, right, mistake for each other. And that rule says it gives me the right and maybe a responsibility to make sure that the other Jew does not miss out on his mitzvah. And therefore, I could blow for the other person. I could blow 100 times for 100 different people on the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, just like I could say Kiddush 100 times on Shabbat. You say Kiddush, and then some guest comes into your house. You can say Kiddush again. You don't have to have the guest say the Kiddush. You want to offer the guest say Kiddush, and offer the guest to say the Kiddush. But if David wants to say the Kiddush a second time, say it a second time. Because you can say it's not a blessing in vain, right, Simon? Because you are covering the person, the guest that came in, since that guest had an obligation, and you are now covering his obligation, his or her obligation when it comes to Shabbat. The women are obligated also in the mitzvah of Kiddush. Now, So the Gemara says, but the ilu yachid shelo bereich, but if someone did not pray yet, ein chavero mevorech alav. But when it comes to davening, prayer is different. Prayer is something we called is rachamei. You ask God for mercy, and there you cannot pray for someone who definitely knows how to pray. Let's explain this. When you go to a minyan, they instituted chazara. They instituted repetition of the Shemona Esrei. Who for who? If we pray, because the illiterates, the uneducated Jews, we're worried about them. We're concerned for them. We want every Jew needs a Jewish education, right? And no Jew left behind, right? Every Jew has to be part of the minyan, part of the services, part of involved in the community. So how do you get the farmer who doesn't know how to pray? He never went to school a day in his life. So how do you do it? Until you teach him, until he knows, you actually, the rabbi said, we're gonna repeat the Hazara to cover all those uneducated Jews. But that's in the minyan. But what about if you're not in a minyan, you go to the farm? Can you pray for the guy in the farm, just you and him? So that's a matter of discussion. Some might say yes if he doesn't know. Some say, others say no. Others say the only time you have the ability to cover someone else with a prayer is only in a minyan. And because there's something, this rabbi, what do you mean? Why is shofar different? I could go to the farm and blow shofar for him, even if I already blew the shofar, and I could blow shofar, but I can't because they say that maybe prayer is something that's uniquely different. It's something much more personal requests, and therefore maybe it's something that more has to be done by oneself. But if it's in a minyan, if it's in a community setting, they said you could pray for the other guy. But if it's not in a community setting, you will not pray for the other guy. But others say that this law is only referring to someone who doesn't know how to pray. But if someone who knows how to pray, I can't cover him one-on-one. But if he doesn't know how to pray, there are those that say I can actually cover him. Now, he would have to say Amen to each bracha. Yes. But the law is just to clarify Nathan's point. If you're covering someone else, the law is he's supposed to say Amen. Let's say Kiddush. You're covering someone with Kiddush. They're supposed to say Amen. But even if they don't say Amen, they're still covered. Why? Because you have them in mind, they have in mind. So that's as if they said it. Because the idea is when you listen to someone say the Kiddush, it's as if you yourself said it. Now, so it's a beautiful idea from the Ran. That the Ran says that a person cannot cover his friend. One cannot cover his friend, even if you have a mind to cover him, and even if you didn't pray yet, because every person has to pray, ask for mercy from his Creator himself, and not through a shliach, not through someone else. Just like I can't have you put on tefillin for me, right? You got to put on the tefillin yourself, right? You're not going to cover me by you putting on tefillin. Same idea. Now, but he brings down different opinions, whether, like we said, if the other person is not capable of praying himself, what will be the halacha over there? In Siman Tov Kuf Tzadik Daled, let's take a look in the Shulchan Aruch. Tov Kuf Tzadik Daled. See what he says. He says, the Shulchan Aruch Mechaber, the Rabbi Yosef Cairo says, an individual that did not blow the shofar, his friend could blow and cover him, have him in mind. But an individual that did not pray, his friend cannot cover him. Now, he did not clarify here what's the case. Does the friend know how to pray or not? Doesn't know how to pray. So comes the Ramah, the Ashkenaz rabbi, says, and some argue and say if the guy is not capable of, doesn't know how to pray, his friend could cover him, which seems to indicate that the Mechaber, the Rabbi Cairo holds, he can't cover him. The guy does one-on-one, even if the other guy doesn't know how to pray. That's what it seems. There's an argument between Ashkenaz and Sfardim, one-on-one. Can a guy cover the other guy? That's what it would seem like.
Culturally, who are more Ashkenazi, who were illiterate farmers, and Sephardim, who had a better tradition of being Jewishly educated?
I'm not sure because it seems, and I bet I presume it's more based from how to understand the Gemara than more than and how the customs of the communities were. Okay, so now the Gemara continues. So the Gemara says, "Umitzvah betokim yotem and hamavorchim." It is more important to be included in the people who are hearing the shofar than be included in the prayer. What does that mean? The Gemara says, what's the case? Kate said, a person does not know how to blow the shofar and he doesn't know how to pray. You hear, Mr. Haber? He didn't go to Sharei Torah, right? He doesn't know how to pray and he doesn't know the shofar, right? And he doesn't know how to pray, doesn't know how to blow the shofar. And he has two shtei ayarot. He has two cities in front of him. Ba'achat tukim. In one city, they're blowing. Uba'achat mevorchim. And in one city, you'll have a musaf. You'll have the chazan who'll be able to hear the musaf. There's a minyan. They're going to pray musaf. You'll be able to hear the minyan. But that minyan in that neighborhood, there's no shofar. They don't have shofar. Certain communities they would have one etrog, one lulav for Sukkot. So whatever the case was, they did not have. That community did not have a shofar, but they had a chazan. They had a person who knew how to pray, and he would cover the minyan. But the other town has a shofar, and they don't have no chazan. They don't have any. No, they don't know how to pray. They forgot how to pray, but remember, everybody, they did not have siddurim. Excuse me, they did not have printed text. It wasn't something that was printed. They used to pray by heart. And ba'achat mevorchim. So what do you do? Hochim, the Gemara says, where do you go? You only can go. Let's say you can't go to both places. You won't be able to be in both places. So hochim lemokom shatokin. You go to the place. What would everybody go to? We hear the shofar because the shofar is a biblical mitzvah. Prayer, even the Rambam that says that praying is minat Torah every day, but praying every day minat Torah is a very simple formula. You praise God. You give a small little. You don't need a whole chazan. You say a praise of God. You make a request, and you thank God. And you can do it in any language. That doesn't seem to. You don't need to be an Einstein. You don't need anybody to pray the musaf, the whole text of the brachot, to know, what to say. Many people were illiterate. You don't know what to say. I don't know what the text is. I don't know what the order is. I don't know what the verses of kingship and the verses of shofar and the verses of zechonot. I don't know what they are. But to go ahead and state a short tefillah, so they could fulfill the biblical obligation very simply. And by the way, the obligation to pray every day is an obligation not only on men. The Mishnah says women are obligated to pray. The only question is, what are women obligated to pray? In Europe, in Eastern Europe, they would pray in Yiddish. They would say a short prayer. They would say, someone told me in certain Sephardic communities, the ladies would go to the mezuzah. They would put their hand on the mezuzah and say something. Say some sort of, you heard about that?
No, it makes sense.
I heard it. That's what I heard right here. That's that you pick up in the Safra synagogue, such a thing. The ladies would go to the mezuzah. Simon, right? They go to the mezuzah. They hold their hand on the mezuzah. And they, what? Okay, and they would say something. In whatever language, French, I don't know, Syrian, I don't know, whatever you call the languages. Talk in Arabic and say whatever you want. Say a praise to God. God, thank you for you're amazing, and I need help, and I need this, I need that, whatever. And thank you, whatever whatever they would say. I don't know what exactly they said. We gotta get some of those people back to tell us what the women said. But that's the more. This is the obvious question. Shofar is a biblical mitzvah. To come to shul to hear the chazan is a rabbinic mitzvah. You get many mitzvot. You get all the amains. You get to hear the reading of the Torah, you get to hear the Chazan, you get all the Kedusha. It's all beautiful. But the biblical mitzvah of shofar is a little higher up. And the rabbis will tell you, you know what, better to go hear the shofar than go to, that's the biblical mitzvah. And they will say, better hold off, miss the praying of hearing the Chazan, you'll pray yourself the short prayer and get the shofar. So what is the chidush? What is the chidush to say that if you have two cities to go to, and you only can go to one, you got to go to the one you got to go to the shofar over the city that has the Chazan, right, David? Isn't it obvious? So the Gemara says, "Yes, pshita, ha daraita, the shofar is daraita, and the davening of Musaf, the Musaf itself is a rabbinic law to daven Musaf. That's the Rabbanan. That's the Gemara's question. So they say over here, Lamed Bet Aman Aleph, you see, if there is a question, we had a question, we say in the Musaf, we say verses of Shofar, verses of Zechronot, and verses of Malchiot. We have that, and we have a statement that says, Hashem says to the Jewish people, Imru lefonai, say HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the quote we had in the Gemara last week. Hashem says, say in front of me, on Rosh Hashana, say verses of Zechronot, Shofrot, and do it with a shofar. And do it with a shofar. It says, Imru lefanai, say in front of me, Rosh Hashana, Malchiot, Zechronot, and Shofrot. So it sounds like it's a biblical mitzvah. So that's, I presume, why the comment, if Hashem is telling the people to say shofar, say these verses, that should be indicating that it's a biblical mitzvah. Good morning. And the Gemara is calling it a rabbinic mitzvah. So that's, I presume, that they're sending you to Lamed Bet and Aleph. Note number 9. Because the Gemara is going to bring sukim. The Gemara is going to bring verses that will indicate the responsibility of saying these verses. So one of the commentaries say it's more of the rabbis saw in the pasuk that the verses are alluding to the idea of talking about kingship and zechronot shofar, not that there's an actual biblical obligation. But getting back to our Gemara, what is the chidush? If you have one town, just to bring up the date, if we have one town that has shofar, one town has a chazan from Musaf, isn't it obvious you go to the town that has shofar, which is a biblical obligation? Even though rabbinic obligation is big and great, Hanukkah is coming up, it's a rabbinic obligation, but shofar is a higher level. There's a great Gemara in Brachot. The Gemara says, the women's obligation in Birkat HaMazon, is it a biblical obligation or rabbinic obligation? So the Gemara says, what's the difference? You got to do it. The Gemara says, you know what? Can a lady say Birkat HaMazon for a man? If it's a biblical obligation, so she could technically say the Birkat HaMazon for a man to cover, let's say, she's the old couple, and the husband's having difficulty saying it, let her say it for the husband. But if it's a rabbinic obligation for a woman, and he has a biblical obligation, she can't cover it. The conclusion is we're not sure, and therefore we would not say, the Gemara doesn't answer the halacha, doesn't seem to feel like it's a question in halacha, and therefore the woman will not say Birkat HaMazon for a man. But the Gemara says, there isn't pshita. Obviously, you got to go to the place where there's the shofar over a place where there's the chazan from Musaf. Lo tzricha, the Gemara, here's the chidush. The afagav the havade v'asafek. This city, there's definitely a chazan. If I go to the city, they don't have a shofar for whatever reason, but they have a chazan. There's a expert, you can bet your bottom dollar, they'll be there, 1,000%. But the other city, they might have a shofar, they might not have a shofar. In previous years, they had a shofar, the minyan got weak. We don't know if they still have a shofar around, there's no shofar around. It's going to be a shofar or not. So in that case, we say that even if you're not sure if you're going to fulfill the biblical obligation of shofar by taking the chance by going to that town. And if you go to the other town, you're definitely going to get the chazan, and you'll get musaf. You'll hear musaf. Still, the possibility of fulfilling that biblical obligation overpowers the certainty of hearing the chazan. You hear that, David? And therefore, you take your chances. And you go to that other city that might have the shofar, and therefore, that's what you're supposed to. That's what you're supposed to do. Now, okay. Now the Gemara says, "Kishem sheshnech tzibur chayav." Just like the chazan, morning Jack, the chazan is obligated to say the amidah, right? He has to go ahead and he has responsibility as the chazan to pray, to lead the services. Hach kol yochid v'yochid. Every individual has to go ahead and pray. Meaning to say, you come to synagogue, and you know the chazan is there. What's his purpose? To cover all the people who don't know how to pray. Now you might say to yourself, okay, I know how to pray, but once he's saying all those brachot anyways, I might as well, person might say, can I fulfill my obligation by listening to him too? Or is it only the person who does not know how to pray can be covered? And that's what we hold. You can't say I'm going to shul. If you know how to pray, you can't say, okay, I'll relax. I won't do the private amidah. I'll just listen to the chazan and I'm covered. No, you got to pray yourself. But there's an actual argument in the Mishnah. At least the way it looks at the beginning of the Gemara that there's an argument that's the opinion of the rabbi. But Rabbi Gamliel says no. Rabbi Gamliel says the same way. Once he's able to cover the non-educated Jew, he can even cover you. Stay tuned tomorrow for more.
Sure.
Thank you everybody for joining. Have a great day. Take care, Mr. Haber.